Part 19. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuchi. Chapter 181. However, when Yang Guozheng took all the case files to the Criminal Police Team 1, he was told that Li Zemming had already led a team to Sishui County to solve the black car murder case, so he could only take over the pickup driver's intentional murder case helplessly. When he looked through the case files again, he accidentally discovered that the cause and process of the entire murder case were related to Zhang Fengjai, who had mysterious abilities. Yang Guozheng immediately thought of a way to safely eliminate the Black Tiger Chamber of Commerce. Because Zhang Fengjai, who is proficient in physiognomy, can change the direction and means of investigation at any time according to the changes in his luck. At the same time, if he can use the intentional murder case of the pickup driver to completely eradicate the Black Tiger Chamber of Commerce that has been causing trouble for many years, then, the competition for the position of deputy director will fall on him without any suspense. Therefore, Yang Guozheng, who adjusted his fighting spirit, called Zhang Fengjai early in the morning. "Okay, I'll wait for you at the gate of Guanghe Huafu." Taking a taxi would also waste his hard-earned wealth, so when he heard that Yang Guozheng was willing to take the initiative to pick him up, Zhang Fengjai certainly wanted it. Dihao Entertainment City. The police raided the place. The fire was caused by the customers on the second floor. The unhappy customers on the third floor made trouble. The customers on the fourth floor had conflicts. The casino on the fifth floor crashed, and the princesses on the sixth floor had trouble drinking. The doormen, security guards, and thugs of the entertainment city, who had been tossing around all night, yawned to release their sleepiness and stood side by side in front of the automatic revolving door. And inside the automatic revolving door, the waiters who had been dressed up again stood side by side with tired expressions. Because just an hour ago, they were forcibly called up by the president's confidant, the general manager of Dihao Entertainment City, Jing Gang, who said that they were going to welcome a very important person. Although they felt very unhappy in their hearts, under the majesty accumulated by Ma Zhengu and Jing Gang for many years, they still obeyed the orders and lined up to welcome them. As a confidant, Jing Gang was now telling the three top players of the entertainment city and warning them about what they needed to pay attention to next. At this moment, Xiao Mudan, who had been paying attention to the outside, suddenly saw a Mercedes-Benz worth millions slowly driving into the entertainment city, and hurriedly reminded Jing Gang, who was chattering non-stop. "Manager, the president's car is here. Everyone, cheer up." Jing Gang, who was shocked, shouted loudly while speeding up to the automatic revolving door. When the Mercedes-Benz slowly stopped in front of the automatic revolving door, what shocked all the staff of the entertainment city was that President Ma, who was usually high and mighty, not only sat in the co-pilot seat, but also got out of the car and took the initiative to open the door when the luxury car just stopped, with a flattering smile on his face. However, when a young and beautiful girl wearing a t-shirt and jeans, with a high ponytail, walked out of the Mercedes-Benz, Jing Gang, who was standing beside Ma Zhengu, changed his face slightly, and then winked at Xiao Mudan and the other two who were welcoming the team at the end. Then, Xiao Linglong, Qin Heng and Kainyin, who were dressed too openly, turned around and left quickly. The beautiful girl who got off the Mercedes-Benz turned around and stretched out her arms like warm jade, and then helped an old man in a tang suit, with a kind expression and white hair, to get out of the car. "Gu Lao, Miss Gu, please come in." Ma Zhengu waved his hand slightly while waving his hand to signal the driver to drive away quickly. "No hurry." The white-haired old man called Gu Lao shook his head, then turned around and looked at the abandoned building where the statues of Qing Long and Qing Plague Ghost Lu Yuanda were buried, with a look of doubt in his eyes. Then, Gu Lao put away the doubt in his eyes and suggested to Ma Zhengu with a smile. "President Ma, don't rush to rest, accompany me for a walk first." Everything is up to Gu Lao's instructions. Ma Zhengu quickly bent over and saluted in response, then stood up and instructed Jing Gang. "Let Biozi and the others come to protect Gu Lao's safety." Got it? After nodding, Jing Gang immediately took out the intercom buckled on his waist and instructed Biozi, who was guarding the 6th floor of the entertainment city, in advance. Biozi, bring your people to the front yard immediately. Gu Lao did not show any satisfaction or rejection to Ma Zhengu and Jing Gang's instructions, but just nodded to the beautiful girl. Afterwards, the beautiful girl helped Gu Lao leave the entertainment city and headed straight for the abandoned building across the road. However, when he was less than 5 meters away from the road, Gu Lao suddenly stopped and turned his head to look north, with a thoughtful look in his eyes. Go over there. After thinking, Gu Lao pointed to the residential building where the Suanwu statue and the Black Plague ghost Zhongrongui statue were buried, and reminded. When everyone came to a row of independent storage rooms, Ma Zhengu, who was very clear about the 5 ghosts moving wealth formation, immediately took out the key to open the iron door, and then went into the storage room first to turn on the light. After carefully observing the changes in the storage room, Gu Lao pointed to the place where the floor tiles were not laid and ordered. Dig it up. When the 2 thugs from the entertainment city dug out the basalt statue buried underground, Gu Lao walked quickly to the top of the statue, his face suddenly changed and he shouted. Saint Lotus Wisdom Eyes. Just as Gu Lao and others dug out the basalt statue in the residential building north of the entertainment city, Zhang Fenjai, who was discussing the case with Yang Guo's Hung, couldn't help but change his face slightly and immediately ordered Yang Guo's Hung. Captain Yang, hurry up and rush to Dihao Entertainment City. Little friend Zhang, what's wrong? Yang Guo's Hung asked while activating the siren on the roof. Nothing. Neither the 5 ghosts moving wealth array nor the Supernatural Research Institute were secrets that Yang Guo's Hung could touch. So, Zhang Fenjai shook his head and took out 3 copper coins from his sleeve. With his left hand, he placed his palm flat, pinched the magic formula with his right hand, and shouted softly. The 3 pure ones descended to the mortal world, and the heaven and earth showed their magical powers. Along with the magic formula and the light shout, the 3 copper coins placed flat on the palm suddenly stood up and began to circle around the palm. As the copper coins rotated faster and faster, the 3 copper coins gradually connected together and slowly turned into a rapidly rotating vortex. At the moment when the vortex just took shape, Zhang Fenjai suddenly slapped the vortex spinning in the palm of his hand against his forehead. Little friend Zhang, what are you doing? Although he stepped on the accelerator to accelerate, the peak period had long passed, so there was not much traffic on the road ahead, so Yang Guo's Hung turned his head from time to take a look. Although he was very surprised by the 3 copper coins that could automatically stand up and rotate, he was still able to remain calm and silent after his experience of the Duying murder case in Miaoying village. However, when he saw Zhang Fenjai slapping the 3 copper coins on his forehead in a self-harming manner, Yang Guo's Hung couldn't help but ask worriedly. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 182. Ignoring Yang Qiushan's questioning, Zhang Fenjai slowly loosened his palm that was slapping his forehead. The vortex formed by the 3 rapidly rotating copper coins in his palm was directly imprinted on his forehead, making him look like the Erlang god in the mythological novel, as if there was an extra eye on his forehead. Then, as he slowly closed his eyes, the eye-like vortex on his forehead was directly aimed at the residence storage room on the north side of Dihao Entertainment City. Grandpa, what's wrong with you? When seeing Grandpa throw away his support and rush directly to the Suanwu statue and screaming, the beautiful girl called Yuer flashed beside him, her eyes full of worry. Yuer, don't worry, Grandpa is fine. He stretched out his old palm, patted the jade hand that supported his arm again, and said with a kind smile on his ancient face. Then, he looked back at the eyes of the Suanwu statue, and after the kind smile on his face was replaced by solemnity, he gave a solemn instruction. President Ma, please help me prepare a newly blooming lotus, a drop of blood from the middle finger of a chaste woman, and a drop of blood from the middle finger of a strong man. Biozi, go to the fountain pool in front of the entertainment city and pick a newly blooming lotus. After hearing the three things that Gu Lao needed, Ma Zhengu thought for a moment and immediately ordered Baozi and Jing Gang. Jing Gang, go to the entertainment city and ask the newly hired waiters and security guards to see who is still a virgin. After Baozi and Jing Gang left the storage room, Gu Lao took out a talisman with a simple color from his sleeve, handed it to the beautiful girl and ordered. Stick this talisman paper on the abdomen of the Suanwu statue. Taking the talisman paper from her grandfather's hand, jumped directly into the 2-meter deep pit, and then stuck the talisman paper on the abdomen of the Suanwu statue. However, just when the talisman paper just touched the statue, it suddenly burned automatically, frightening Yu so much that she quickly withdrew her hand. Gu Lao, whose face instantly darkened, immediately ordered. Come back immediately. When Yu jumped out of the deep pit, Gu Lao quickly took out 2 talismans from his sleeves and pasted them on the eyes of the Suanwu statue with agility and speed beyond his age. However, just when Gu Lao just retracted his right hand that was pasting the talisman, the 2 talisman papers pasted on the statue immediately burned automatically, and the burning flames gradually condensed into 2 eyes. When the flame eyes were completely formed, a deliberately changed voice sounded. Who are you? When Yu heard the sound of the eyes condensed by the flames, she flashed in front of Gu Lao, and a sharp weapon condensed by spiritual power appeared in her hand. Ma Zhengu and the thugs of the entertainment city took a few steps back with a look of horror. Because they had never seen the flames burning on the talisman paper, which could not only condense human eyes, but also speak. I am from the Gukang sect, my Taoist name is Qing Huan, and my secular name is Gu Xing. After signaling Yu to temporarily step aside, he retidied his clothes and introduced himself solemnly. Master Qing Huan, although the Gukang sect is not as famous as the 10 major Taoist sects, it is also a famous and upright sect with a long history. Why did you arrange the retrograde 5 ghosts moving wealth formation for the evil man Ma Zhengu who is causing trouble in the secular world? After hearing Gu Xing's self-introduction, the questioning voice in the eyes of flame suddenly added a trace of anger. For survival. Facing the angry questioning in the eyes of flames, Gu Xing did not feel the slightest guilt or dissatisfaction, but just replied calmly. In order to enable the Gukang sect to obtain the inherited practice resources, and to make the younger generations of the Gu family live happily, I, Qing Huan, only have interests in my eyes, not good and evil. Facing Gu Xing's seemingly indifferent but actually cold-blooded answer, the eyes of flames gradually fell silent. Zhang Fenjai, sitting in the co-pilot seat of the police car, slowly opened his eyes and looked at Yang Guo's Hung, asking with a puzzled look in his eyes. Captain Yang, what is good? What is evil? Whether it is the education he received since childhood or the responsibility after becoming a people's policeman, Yang Guo's Hung has a special understanding of good and evil in his profession, so he replied without thinking. Selfless dedication is good, harming others for personal gain is evil. Devotion, self-interest. Repeating Yang Guo's reply, the puzzled look in Zhang Fenjai's eyes was gradually replaced by confusion, and the flame eyes in front of the Suanwu statue gradually dimmed. Because in his opinion, Gu Xing was not wrong to do evil for the survival of his sect and family, and Yang Guo's spirit of selfless dedication also made sense. Then, there is no so-called right and wrong between good and evil. In this case, why does the secular world have to formulate laws to punish evil and promote good, and why does the Taoist sect have to formulate rules that good and evil cannot coexist? Grandpa, shall we start? Just as the color of the flame's eyes gradually dimmed, Yu, holding the sword tightly in her hand, asked in a low voice. Looking at the sword condensed by spiritual power in the hands of his granddaughter, and then looking at the eyes of the flame that were about to go out, Gu Xing's eyes showed a struggling look. At this time, Baozi held a lotus with a root in his hand, and Jing Gang led 2 boys and girls aged 16 or 17 back to the storage room. Yu, start. When he saw the fully bloomed fresh lotus and the boys and girls whose Yuan Yang and Yuan Yin had not revealed the slightest, The struggling look in Gu Xing's eyes was instantly replaced by excitement, and he gave the order to attack. At the moment when he heard Gu Xing's order, the long sword in Yuer's hand pierced directly into the eyes of the flame. Zhang Fengjai, with a confused look in his eyes, turned his head to look at the scenery outside the car window. Looking at those busy and struggling young people, those white-haired old people who were enjoying their old age, and those carefree children, the confusion in his eyes became more intense. However, when the red light in front of him turned on, forcing Yang Guo's Hung to stop the police car, Zhang Fengjai's eyes stayed on the edge of the flowers on the road, a beggar in his 50s, dressed in rags, and a well-dressed young man in his 30s. The well-dressed young man took out his wallet, and his eyes hesitated briefly on the 3 coins of 1, 5, and 10 yuan, and finally took out a 10 yuan coin and put it in the porcelain bottle in front of the beggar. The ragged beggar raised his head and looked at the 3 coins of 1, 5, and 10 in the other person's wallet, and also showed a brief expectation. When the well-dressed young man donated 10 coins, the reluctance in his eyes was instantly replaced by fighting spirit. When the ragged beggar received 10 coins, the expectation in his eyes was instantly replaced by joy, and he exuded a lazy atmosphere. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 183. Selfless dedication against one's will is called rebellion, and self-interest at the expense of others in accordance with one's will is called compliance. The donor's and beggar's performance of giving and receiving just now made Zhang Fengjai's confused look clear quickly, and he gradually formed his own unique views on the difference between good and evil. Rebellion is immortality, compliance is human, good is cause, evil is result. Doing good may seem stupid, but in fact, it is the reverse cultivation that conforms to cause and effect to become immortal. Doing evil may seem smart, but in fact, it is the willingness to reverse cause and effect to become human. Just when Zhang Fengjai completely solved the doubts about good and evil in his heart, a kind of soul was sublimated, and the state of mind was greatly improved. At the same time, he also clearly sensed that the flame eyes condensed by Taoism were about to encounter a devastating attack. After a terrifying cold light flashed in his eyes, he immediately closed his eyes and used the vortex that merged into his forehead, and then controlled the flame eyes to avoid the sword attack in time. Then, his eyes merged together quickly, gradually condensing into a fully bloomed lotus, and the flames burning in the lotus could easily resist the attack of the sharp sword. At the same time, Gu Xing, who was retreating quickly, took the lotus from Biozi's hand and ordered the young man and woman to bite their middle fingers and drip blood on the petals of the blooming lotus. When the petals of the lotus were dyed red with blood, Gu Xing took out the exquisite little man made of talisman paper dyed red with blood from his sleeves, and then pasted the exquisite little man directly on the lotus. Then, while he threw the exquisite paper man and lotus towards the Suanwu statue, he instructed Yuer, who was fighting the flaming lotus. Yuer, use your spiritual power to stimulate the blood lotus ghost. Without any hesitation, Yuer stretched out her jade finger and ejected a spiritual power, which directly merged into the little man made of talisman paper. Then, the little man made of talisman paper came to life, and then while moving his hands and feet, his legs were directly cross-legged on the pistil of the lotus. Blood lotus ghost, devouring gods and souls, regaining life. When Zhang Fengjai saw the blood lotus and the talisman paper figurine floating in front of the Suanwu statue, his eyes flashed with shock. He finally understood why Gu Xing wanted to help the evil man Ma Zhengu set up the 5 ghosts moving wealth formation, and the shock in his eyes was instantly replaced by murderous intent. Then, he solemnly ordered Yang Guo's Hung. Captain Yang, help me find a secluded place immediately. No problem. Without asking the reason for looking for a secluded place, Yang Guo's Hung immediately nodded and agreed, quickly glanced at the surrounding environment, and then forced a U-turn to drive the police car into the normal college. When seeing the police car driving into the familiar normal college, Zhang Fenjai's eyes flashed with a hint of joy, and immediately signaled Yang Guo's Hung to go to the bamboo forest of the normal college. When the police car stopped at the flowers 30 meters away from the bamboo forest, Zhang Fenjai immediately got out of the car and rushed to the bamboo forest, leaving a message of entrustment. "Captain Yang, please help me guard the bamboo forest and don't let anyone get close." The spirit power and the breeze steps quickly rushed to the open space in the bamboo forest, and he sat cross-legged while taking out the 5 elements spirit beads and placing them around his body. Then, while absorbing the spirit power of the spirit beads, he slowly closed his eyes and controlled the flame lotus to retreat to the corner, and then accumulated strength to prepare to rescue Ma Zhengu, who was about to be in danger at any time. Under the stimulation of your spirit power, the talisman paper man who came to life sat cross-legged on the lotus stamen, and then stretched out his palm to aim at the basalt statue. Then, a strong suction force formed from the palm of the talisman paper man's palm directly acted on the back shell of the basalt statue. When the stone back shell slowly cracked a gap, a stone sculpture plague ghost about 5 or 6 centimeters tall rushed out of the body of the basalt statue. However, when he saw the statue of the plague ghost that had been bathed in blood that exuded a fishy smell, Gu Xing's face instantly turned gloomy, and he cursed with gnashing teeth. "Damn it, they actually used the obscene blood of Tian Kui to pollute the spirituality of the plague ghost, so that the ghost evil could not extract the vitality accumulated by the plague god and destroy my chance to take life from the sky." After cursing with gnashing teeth, Gu Xing immediately turned around and looked at Ma Zhengu and the thugs of the entertainment city. After a gloomy cold light flashed in his eyes, he immediately took out a talisman paper drawn with the blood of the monster from his sleeve and threw it directly at the talisman paper figure sitting cross-legged on the lotus stamen. Just as the red talisman paper was attached to the talisman paper figure, the palm of the talisman paper figure that was originally stretched out to the Suanwu statue turned directly to Ma Zhengu and Jing Gang, as well as the other 12 thugs. "Guo Lao, what are you doing?" When he saw the strange talisman paper man's palm pointing at him, Ma Zhengu immediately felt a little uneasy. He asked with a forced smile on his face while slowly approaching the iron door of the storage room. In response, Gu Xing flashed a disdainful sneer in his eyes and winked at Yor. Whether it was the disdainful sneer in Gu Xing's eyes or the strong suction from the palm of the talisman paper man, Ma Zhengu immediately realized that the other party had bad intentions. Fortunately, his suspicious and cautious character made him prepare for defense in advance. So, while suddenly accelerating towards the iron door, Ma Zhengu ordered the 12 thugs including Biozi who had been carefully trained. "Biozi, kill them." The habit formed by years of training made Biozi and others instinctively take out the pistols hidden in their waists, and then aimed at Gu Xing and Yor and prepared to shoot. Shua. However, just as they were about to pull the trigger, a dazzling white light flashed, and the right palms of Biozi and the other 12 thugs holding the pistols were cut off. Then, Yor, with a cold expression, stretched out her jade finger and flicked the long sword, shaking off the blood on the sword. At the same time, the shock force formed by the sword directly stunned Biozi and the other 12 thugs who were about to open their mouths and howl. Then, the strong suction formed by the palm of the talisman paper man directly enveloped the unconscious Biozi and others, and then a trace of black gas slowly floated out from their heads and directly merged into the palm of the talisman paper man. As the black gas merged into the palm of the talisman paper man, the pale silver hair of Gu Xing, who was originally old and frail, was gradually replaced by black, and his wrinkled cheeks slowly became plump. With the help of Biozi and others blocking, Ma Zhengu and Jing Gang, who successfully escaped from the storage room, rushed desperately to the entertainment city. But when the strong suction force formed by the palm of the talisman paper man ignored the obstacle of the storage room wall and acted directly on them, Ma Zhengu and Jing Gang were horrified to find that their will could not control their bodies and they turned around and returned to the storage room. However, just when Ma Zhengu and Jing Gang could not control their bodies to return to the storage room, the flame lotus that took the initiative to retreat to the corner of the wall to accumulate strength, under the control of Zhang Fenjai's Taoism, directly crashed into the paper man sitting on the blood lotus core. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 184. In the storage room of the residential building. Boom. Just as Zhang Fenjai used Taoism to control the flame lotus and crashed into the talisman paper figure sitting cross-legged on the blood lotus core, a sharp sword energy as fast as a gust of wind directly slashed the flame lotus. Accompanied by a violent roar, the flame lotus was directly shattered by the sharp sword energy, and countless sparks scattered throughout the storage room. Could it be that the opponent is a silver wax spearhead, and his strength is very ordinary? Seeing the flame lotus easily shattered by the sword energy, Gu Xing and Yu both showed doubts in their eyes. But when they saw countless sparks scattered all over the sky constantly floating towards Ma Zhengu and gradually cutting off the strong suction formed by the palm of the talisman paper figure, Gu Xing's eyes flashed with a look of enlightenment, and he immediately ordered Yu do your best to extinguish the sparks on Ma Zhengu's body. After hearing Gu Xing's order, Yu stretched out her white and tender wrist and trembled quickly, and the sharp sword in her hand continued to pierce the sparks like a rain of swords. But what Gu Xing and Yu didn't notice was some sparks scattered in the corners quickly condensed into a small fire snake as big as a thumb, and then slid under the Suanwu statue along the ground, and then directly merged into the statue of the plague ghost Zhongrongui. Just as Yu used her exquisite swordsmanship to stab all the sparks floating towards Ma Zhengu, the straight stone legs of the plague ghost Zhongrongui were forcibly bent. Just as the strong suction formed by the palm of the talisman paper man continued to act on Ma Zhengu's body, and black gas gradually emerged from his head, the statue of the plague ghost Zhongrongui suddenly soared into the sky and directly hit the blood lotus floating above the Suanwu statue. When Gu Xing saw the plague ghost statue soaring into the sky and hitting the blood lotus, he secretly said that it was not good, and directly stretched out his hand to hit his heart, and then sprayed a mouthful of heart blood at the talisman paper man. The talisman paper figurine that quickly merged into the heart blood, before the statue of the plague ghost Zhongrongui hit the blood lotus hard and was completely shattered, stepped on the blood lotus core and jumped high, avoiding the impact damage, and was held in the palm of Yu who also jumped. After quickly swallowing the talisman paper figurine sent by Yu, Gu Xing, who originally looked old, quickly turned into a strong middle-aged man in his 40s. Yu, let's go. After looking at Ma Zhengu with unwillingness in his eyes, Gu Xing, who was several decades younger, gave an order to Yu, and then rushed out of the storage room directly. What a cunning Taoist Qing Huan! When Zhang Fenjai saw Gu Xing, who swallowed the talisman paper figurine, quickly turned from a white-haired old man into a middle-aged man in his prime, he sighed in his heart, and a trace of fear flashed in his eyes. Because the other party relied on Biozi and other 12 auxiliary souls to obtain nearly one-third of the chance of rebirth, which shows that he is a conspirator who is good at planning and used to keeping a trump card. From the fact that the other party decisively gave up the Blood Lotus foundation of 2/3 of the chance of rebirth and left without hesitation, it shows that he is a ruthless person who acts decisively and does not care about the gains and losses in front of him. Facing such a ruthless and masterful master, Zhang Fenjai had only one thought at this time, that is, to cut the grass and root out the troubles in the future. After making up his mind to cut the grass and root out, he bit his tongue and spit out a mouthful of blood, and then used his spiritual power to force out the 3 copper coins that had merged into his forehead. Then, he took out 3 talisman papers from his sleeves. Then, he used the blood of the mind to draw 3 talismans, and then used the 3 copper coins to condense a mirror that could melt the air and fight. Seeing the direction that Gu Xing and Yu left through the mirror, Zhang Fenjai happened to pass by the place where he had buried the peachwood sword and the talisman. After a look of surprise in his eyes, Zhang Fenjai stretched his hands directly into the mirror of the bronze mirror. This is the secret method of the Kunlun sect, the world is within reach. Gu Xing, who was speeding to the entertainment city and preparing to seize the luxury car to leave Ningji city, suddenly shouted out when he saw the void in front of him suddenly stretched out two palms. Yu directly flashed in front of Gu Xing, and with a solemn look, she used her spiritual power to condense a sharp sword again. The three pure ones show their divine power, and the beasts subdue the demons. Accompanied by the hands that appeared in the void and began to pinch the magic formula, and the deliberately changed chanting sound, a black giant python about 10 meters long sprang out from the 9 meters east of the entertainment city, the 18 meters west, the 36th position in the south, and the 72 meters north. Then, the hands in the void suddenly disappeared. Although it was past the rush hour, there were still many cars and pedestrians on the road. When they saw four black pythons rushing towards the entertainment city, the timid ones turned around and ran away immediately, while the brave ones took their phones to take pictures and record. The giant python formed by the blood of monsters is only at the 4th level of chi condensation at most. Seeing the four black pythons rushing quickly, Gu Xing, who had carefully observed them, flashed a look of disdain in his eyes and ordered Yu kill the four black pythons as quickly as possible, and then return to the magic city as soon as possible. Yes, Grandpa. After nodding in response, Yu ran forward 4 or 5 steps, jumped high, killed the nearest black python with one move, and then accelerated to rush towards the black python rushing from the west. The sky and the earth are boundless, the universe borrows the law. When Yu rushed out and was more than 30 meters away from Gu Xing, her hands that had disappeared suddenly appeared in the void again, and cast different spells and incantations. Accompanying the change of the spells and incantations, 4 exquisite and small wooden swords suddenly sprang out from the position where the black python had just appeared. When Gu Xing saw the floating peachwood sword and the 3 exorcism talismans attached to the peachwood sword, his expression suddenly changed, and he immediately shouted to Yu who was killing the black python. Yu, come and save me. After hearing her grandfather's call for help, Yu immediately abandoned the last black python and rushed to Gu Xing desperately, but compared with the peachwood sword that could fly in the air, her desperate speed was still a little slower. In the end, the 2 peachwood swords closest to Gu Xing pierced his abdomen and heart respectively, which made Yu, who quickly returned to Gu Xing's side, couldn't help but scream to the sky. No. As the 3 exorcism talismans attached to the peachwood sword burned automatically, Gu Xing's black hair was replaced by paleness again, and his plump skin was replaced by looseness again. Yu, don't be angry or sad, listen to me carefully. The old right hand suddenly grabbed Yu's arm, and Gu Xing, who was about to reach the end of his life, showed a strong look of dissatisfaction in his eyes. Grandpa, you say. Yu immediately controlled her emotions and looked at Gu Xing nervously. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 185. After my life force disappears, you use the sky eye to collect my soul, and then put my soul into the Yinsha land. Since God doesn't let me go the way of becoming an immortal, then I will use the way of ghosts to achieve the imperial ambition and protect the Gu family. After giving the instructions, Gu Xing's head tilted and he passed away. His left hand quickly passed through his eyes, and after opening the sky eye, Yu quickly collected the soul that had left his body, and then carried Gu Xing's body and ran straight to the guards and doormen guarding the automatic revolving door. Where is the key to the car just now? Yu asked in a frosty voice after sweeping her sharp eyes over the people at the scene. It's with me. The driver who was in charge of driving just now quickly raised the car key in his hand and gestured. After snatching the car key from the other party's hand, Yu mobilized her spiritual power to cooperate with her body skills, rushed to the front of the luxury car quickly, and then started the luxury car to leave the entertainment city. Seeing Yu driving away in a luxury car, Zhang Fengjai did not stop her. He just put away the remaining 2 wooden swords and the evil-repelling talisman, and then took a look at the entertainment city and the people in the entertainment city, which were completely shrouded in heavy bad luck. Then, he withdrew the Taoist technique of close to the world performed with the help of copper coins, swallowed the blood of the mind that was not too much, and then stood up and left the bamboo forest. Captain Yang, summon your subordinates to surround the Dahao Entertainment City and do your best to capture Ma Zhengu and the elites of the Black Tiger Chamber of Commerce. Walking to Yanguo's hung, Zhang Fengjai ordered calmly. The statue of the plague ghost Zhongrongui was destroyed along with the blood lotus jade stone, which represented the complete cracking of the 5 ghosts moving wealth formation, and the plague ghost statues in the other 4 directions would also be shattered. The moment the 5 plague ghost statues were shattered, the thunderous wrath that had been suppressed for 3 years would instantly bring down the bad luck that was difficult to resolve on the 5 plague messengers. Ma Zhengu, who was affected by countless bad luck, would lose any hope and possibility of a complete turnaround. Even those who have blood ties, righteousness ties, and interests with him will be affected by bad luck to a greater or lesser extent. Those who are close to him will be imprisoned, and those who are distant will lose money to avoid disaster. There won't be any problems, right? Yanguo's Hung asked with a little concern, as the risks and impacts of arresting Ma Zhengu directly are great. In 5 days at the shortest and 10 days at the longest, Captain Yang will be promoted step by step. Kingxia congratulates him in advance. Although he did not directly answer Yang Qiushan's question, Zhang Fengjai indirectly gave him the confidence to arrest Ma Zhengu by congratulating him on his promotion and wealth. Friend Zhang, let's go together and get rid of this cancer that has been a scourge to Ningji City for many years. Promotion, that is, the vacant deputy director position, will fall on him in a short time. But why? I'm afraid that only the credit of eliminating Ma Zhengu and the Black Tiger Chamber of Commerce can allow him to defeat Li Zeming, who has more seniority than himself, and thus get the opportunity to be promoted. Therefore, Yanguo's Hung, who had 100% trust in Zhang Fengjai's physiognomy, immediately invited him with high spirits. Captain Yang, arresting Ma Zhengu is a matter of course, and there is no need for my intervention, so I won't accompany you. After shaking his head to reject Yang Qiushan's invitation, Zhang Fengjai stepped out of the flowers and headed for the path that had sublimated his soul and transformed his state of mind. Looking at Zhang Fengjai turning away, Yanguo's Hung did not persuade him too much. He immediately started the police car and contacted the subordinates of the second team with his mobile phone, asking them to rush to Dahao Entertainment City as quickly as possible. Walking on the small road paved with blue bricks, looking at the weeping willows and bonsai on the side of the road, Zhang Fengjai began to reflect on the gains and losses, the mistakes and the right and wrong of his reckless actions just now. After all, in order to kill Gu Xin completely, he not only used the Taoist secret method taught by his third grandfather under the gaze of countless ordinary people, but also used the talisman to transform into a black python with a body length of 10 meters. Although spiritual power can block the recording of electronic devices and ensure that the images will not appear on TV and the internet, the witnesses of countless ordinary people at the scene will definitely cause a sensation, and will eventually alarm the top leaders of the country, the strong ones among the Taoists and monsters. At that time, whether he will be sanctioned by the country's laws, whether he will be criticized by the Taoist predecessors, and whether he will be hunted down by the monsters, this is what he is most worried about now. Just as Zhang Fengjai was walking in the academy path and fell into deep thought, in the second ring of Yanqing, the capital of China, in a very narrow alley, in an antique courtyard, a middle-aged man with elegant temperament and wearing hanfu, hung up the phone from Ningji City, and said to himself with a smile on his face. Kunlun's secret method of close to the world, Long Hushan's spell illusion and Peachwood sword, it seems that the 10 major Taoist sects that have been showing weakness have finally begun to show their means, wanting to take the opportunity to compete for the opportunity of spiritual energy revival. But how much power can you accumulate secretly without the resources for cultivation for decades? Just as the middle-aged man was talking to himself, the mobile phone on the stone table in front of him suddenly vibrated. After seeing the number displayed on the mobile phone screen, the middle-aged man, whose face changed slightly, immediately stood up and picked up the phone, and said with a very respectful look and tone, "Hello, Chief. Find a way to calm the influence of Taoism in Ningji City." A majestic voice came from the phone. "Yes," the middle-aged man immediately responded respectfully. "The time is not really ripe yet, don't pay attention to the younger generations who appeared in Ningji City for the time being. Yes. Pay close attention to the situation of monsters and Kunlun Mountain. Yes." After hanging up the phone, the middle-aged man turned to face the place where the dragon veins gathered and bowed respectfully. In the endless evergreen mountains, a goshawk with wings spread more than 10 meters, landed as fast as lightning on the edge of a beautiful valley and spring, and then flapped its wings to form a gust of wind. Countless rocks rolled up by the strong wind smashed into the stream, and then stirred up countless waves. As the waves rolled, the spring water began to rotate rapidly, and then slowly formed a vortex in the middle, and a thunderous question came from the vortex. "Yingjian, why do you want to disturb my retreat?" With a thunderous sound, a huge snake head floated up from the whirlpool. But it is a little different from ordinary snakes. On the snake's head sticking out of the stream, a round meat bag protrudes. "Jiaolin, the elite disciples of the Taoist sect have begun to go down the mountain to practice." After folding its flapping wings, the goshawk, known as Yingjian, briefly introduced what happened at Dihao Entertainment City in Ningji City. It has been less than 100 years since the Kunlun Mountains were sealed. Logically speaking, we should not send disciples down the mountain to practice. After hearing Yingjian's introduction, Jiaolin said to himself with a puzzled look in his huge eyes. "Jiaolin, regardless of whether Kunlun has been born from Mount Ji, how should we deal with those elite disciples who have gone through training?" Yingjian directly interrupted Jiaolin's muttering and asked. "Simple." A fierce and murderous look flashed in Jiaolin's eyes, and his tone was filled with murderous intent. "Instruct all the monsters hidden in Ningji City to kill those Taoist juniors at all costs." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yanyun Yuqi. Chapter 186. Ningji Normal University. Walking on the green brick path of the college, Zhang Fengjai thought deeply and compared with reality, and finally felt that the importance of eradicating the roots was far more important than taking action in full view of the public. For one thing, the calculating ancient ways are too dangerous. If he is not eliminated in advance, with his shrewdness and means, he should soon be able to trace himself through the reversal of the five ghosts moving money formation and the conflict with Ma Zhenggu. Relying on the inheritance time and foundation of the ancient Kang sect, he is no match for them at all. Secondly, there are many variables in the complex and ever-changing reality of the situation. Whether it was Zhuang Jian from the Supernatural Research Institute or the evil cultivator surnamed Wu who arranged the 5-bead spirit condensing array, the stone lions on the stone bridge and the 9-headed monster in the netherworld encountered during this period were as powerful as the 9th spirit condensing array. The giant black python on the upper level, as well as the heart-killing spider that he killed. This shows that Ningji City, which appears to be calm on the surface, has actually been turbulent for a long time, but they are all within a restrained range. Perhaps the amazing Taoist skills displayed in front of everyone this time may completely change the seemingly peaceful situation in Ningji City, and instead put themselves in absolute safety. Thirdly, he was cautious when he took action in front of everyone. Whether it is the Taoist magic that is so far away, or the secluded bamboo forest where the Taoist magic is performed, or the deliberately changed voice of the mantra, it can ensure that his identity will not be leaked in a short time. It was precisely based on the above 3 points that he gradually got rid of the troubles after taking action in public, and accelerated his pace to leave the normal college, planning to return to the apartment to continue practicing. After all, you need to be tough in order to make iron, and strength is the way to go. If he now possesses the ability of Third Grandpa to communicate with Taoists and gods, he will not have any fear or flinch even if he directly faces the strong ones from Taoist sects and monsters, or directly faces the masters from the Supernatural Research Institute. However, just as he passed a book gallery made of bamboo and glass, Zhuang Jian's voice suddenly sounded in his ears. Zhang Fenjai, wait a moment. Slowly turning around, Zhang Fenjai saw Zhuang Jian, who was wearing a white shirt on her upper body and tight jeans on her lower body, with shawl long hair, walking quickly from the corridor with a thick book in her arms. Come. If Zhuang Jian in leather clothes and leather pants last night was an attractive rose with thorns, so, today's combination of white shirt and blue jeans made her look like a holy lotus from a distance. But the combination of different clothes can only change her external image, but the domineering nature of her heart can never be changed. Therefore, facing Zhuang Jian who was walking quickly, Zhang Fenjai's calm expression was gradually replaced by indifference. After a brief contact last night, Zhuang Jian already knew Zhang Fenjai's resistant attitude towards the Supernatural Research Institute. Therefore, facing Zhang Fenjai's stinky face, she asked with a smile without caring at all. Zhang Fenjai, did you come to see me today? Hearing Zhuang Jian's inexplicable question, Zhang Fenjai couldn't help but frowned and asked. Zhuang Jian, why should I look for you? Okay, don't pretend to be me here. Zhuang Jian stretched out her hand to pick up a few scattered hairs in front of her forehead, and then gave him a look of contempt. Zhuang Jian said with a smile. Don't you just want to find out from me about the Taoist interception that just happened in Dihao Entertainment City? Otherwise, you, a Taoist monk, would come to the normal college specifically. Hearing Zhuang Jian mention the Taoist interception that had just happened in Dihao Entertainment City in full view of everyone, Zhang Fenjai suddenly felt nervous and at the same time continued to tease with an indifferent expression. Oh. So what does Captain Zhuang, who is from the Supernatural Research Institute, know? Zhang Fenjai, if you continue to have this attitude, then stop talking about anything between us. After hearing Zhang Fenjai's strange teasing, Zhuang Jian's eyes flashed with a hint of anger, and she warned with an unhappy expression. From now on, I will walk on my Yangguan road, and you will walk on your single plank bridge. We will treat each other as strangers who have never met before. In fact, among the four forces of Taoism, evil cultivators, monsters, and the Supernatural Research Institute, the one he fears the most is the Supernatural Research Institute. Because they hold the power in the secular world, they have the most ability and opportunity to find out the truth about the Taoist interception in Dihao Entertainment City. Therefore, no matter how much they dislike Zhuang Jian from the Supernatural Research Institute in their hearts, in order to know her understanding of the truth to the extent that he understands, he must change his thoughts and attitudes. After putting away his indifferent expression, Zhang Fenjai squeezed out a smile and apologized. Sorry, Zhuang Jian, I was rude just now. I would like to solemnly say sorry to you. Fine. Facing Zhang Fenjai's proactive apology, Zhuang Jian regained a smile on her face and quickly waved her hand, then began to introduce her investigation results on the Taoist interception that occurred in Dihao Entertainment City. According to the detailed information and descriptions returned from the scene, and combined with the calculations of the senior officials in the Research Institute, the Taoist interception and killing that occurred in front of Dihao Entertainment City this time should be from Kunlun and Longhushan among the 10 major Taoist sections. What the disciples did. The specific process is that the experienced disciples of the 2 major sects accidentally discovered the 5 ghosts' wealth-moving formation arranged by Dihao Entertainment City. They, who are well-known and upright people, tried to decipher the formation on behalf of the gods, and arranged the 5 ghosts moving money formation. There was a conflict between the Gukang faction of the financial formation. In the end, in the midst of a life and death struggle, the agreement signed between the Taoist sect and the country was violated, leading to a fight in public. After hearing Zhuang Jian's introduction, Zhang Fenjai secretly breathed a sigh of relief, But two questions also emerged in his mind. Captain Zhuang, how did you determine that the cultivator who just used Taoist magic to kill was a training disciple from Kunlun and Longhu Mountain? After all, when he killed Gu Xing who was escaping, he never had the idea of framing him, so he couldn't figure out how the Supernatural Research Institute diverted attention for him. The Taoist technique that can make the hands and spiritual power appear in the air is called the world is close, which is the secret technique of Kunlun Mountain. Only the most core disciples are qualified to practice it. It can perfectly condense the body of the monster using the blood of the monster and retain more than 1/3 of its strength. It is also the Taoist technique of Longhu Mountain. Only the most core disciples are qualified to practice it. So, even if they secretly attack and kill them, the several strong men in the research institute can deduce their true origins through the Taoist techniques they perform. Faced with Zhang Fenjai's questions, Zhuang Jian explained truthfully without hiding anything. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 187. Ningji Teachers College. In fact, the reason why Zhuang Jian was so tolerant and flattering Zhang Fenjai was not only because of the political tasks given by the upper-level leaders, but also because of her own little calculations. Because she was forced to leave Guanghe Huafu by Zhang Fenjai last night, she reported the reasons for the failure of hunting down Black Bolt and the encounter with Zhang Fenjai in detail to the upper-level leaders, and applied for the upper-level leaders to send masters to give him severe punishment. After all, Zhang Fenjai not only violated the agreement between the Taoist sect and the country, but also clearly showed resistance to the Supernatural Research Institute, and humiliated and threatened her nakedly. But what was completely unexpected to her was that the upper-level leaders not only flatly rejected her application, but also ordered her to try her best to win over Zhang Fenjai, preferably to make him a member of the Supernatural Research Institute. Although she didn't know the real intention of the upper-level leaders, she could hear from the tone of the command that the upper-level leaders value Zhang Fenjai. Ever since she was assigned to the teacher's college after her Taoism skills were upgraded to the minor success level, and was responsible for monitoring and cleaning up the supernatural creatures in the entire Ningji city, Zhuang Jian has been eager to return to the institute. Because the specially transformed institute not only has the spiritual energy suitable for cultivation, but also has the guidance of famous teachers and strong people, which can enable her to achieve rapid progress in cultivation and strength. However, according to the regulations of the institute, the heads of various regions can only get the opportunity to return to the institute headquarters if they have accumulated enough performance. If Zhang Fenjai can be recruited to become a member of the institute, then with the attention of the superiors to him, perhaps the performance and rewards she gets can allow her to directly regain the qualification to return to the institute headquarters. Of course, even if the task of recruiting fails in the end, as long as she can establish a good cooperative relationship with Zhang Fenjai, then the two sides can cooperate to complete the tasks assigned by the institute, so that she can get enough performance and rewards in a short time. After all, Zhang Fenjai is a Taoist master who can release spiritual power. It is based on the above ideas that she can tolerate Zhang Fenjai's bad face and ridicule, and can reveal the results of the investigation without reservation. The sky cliff within a feet is the secret method of Kunlun, and the condensation of objects is the Taoist method of Longhu Mountain. After hearing the explanation given by Zhuang Jian, Zhang Fenjai was suddenly shocked as if he could not believe it. Because he always thought that the skills taught to him by his third grandfather were just ordinary Taoist methods that all Taoist monks would practice, otherwise, he would not be able to perform the Taoist methods of the sky cliff within a feet and the condensation of objects in front of others. In addition to being shocked, he also had a puzzled question in his heart. That is, how did the third grandfather, who was not too involved in Taoism, get the Taoist methods of Kunlun and Longhu Mountain? Fortunately, the plan to return to the Shushan Taoist temple during the Mid-Autumn Festival did not bother him too much. After adjusting his emotions again, Zhang Fenjai asked the second question in his heart. Captain Zhuang, I wonder how the leaders of your supernatural research institute will treat the disciples from Kunlun and Longhu Mountain next. Keep close watch and let them practice, Zhuang Jian replied with a frown. Because according to the agreement signed between the Taoist sect and the country, disciples from Kunlun and Longhu Mountain who practice Taoism under the gaze of thousands of ordinary people will be severely punished. At the least, they will be suppressed in the dungeon of the institute, and at the worst, they will be directly abolished and sent to prison. But the practice of tolerating and forgiving the disciples of the sects made her unable to guess the real intention of the upper-level leaders. Although she also couldn't figure out the idea of the leaders of the Supernatural Research Institute, the order not to pursue and track down the Taoist magic to kill made Zhang Fengjai completely relieved. Because this means that in the next period of time, as long as he doesn't use the Taoist magic of the cliff and the condensed object transformation in the public eye, he can continue to use other Taoist magic to solve some troubles he encounters. In this way, it will neither affect his plan to kill the vengeful spirits nor hinder him from killing the nine-headed monster in the place of leaking yin. Zhang Fengjai, do you have time tomorrow night? The answer and explanation just now without any concealment have fully demonstrated his goodwill to make friends with the other party. Then, Zhuang Jian needs to know the other party's attitude towards the Supernatural Research Institute, whether it continues to be disgusted and resisted, or is willing to cooperate further. Captain Zhuang, what do you want to do? Zhang Fengjai immediately asked with vigilance. Accompany me to capture a monster. What type of monster? How strong is it? A cat monster with the strength of the third level of qi condensation. After hearing Zhuang Jian's answer, Zhang Fengjai's eyes showed a puzzled look. Because the cultivation level that Zhuang Jian showed when chasing the Black Bat King last night had reached the 5th level of qi condensation, and she was fully capable of capturing the cat monster alone, and did not need his help at all. Zhang Fengjai, although the strength of that cat demon is not very strong, it has a speed that is not inferior to flying, so I need you to cooperate secretly to intercept it. Facing Zhang Fengjai's doubts, Zhuang Jian explained with a helpless tone. Red Burmese cat. With the cultivation of the third level of qi condensation, it has a speed that exceeds the wind, which immediately reminds Zhang Fengjai of a cat demon that is the best at speed among cat-type monsters. That's right, Zhuang Ruyan nodded and admitted truthfully. No problem. The red Burmese cat is the most brutal monster in the cat family. It sucks human blood and devours human hearts as a means of cultivation, and likes to kill prey by torturing them. So, after getting Zhuang Ruyan's affirmative answer, Zhang Fengjai immediately nodded in agreement. Okay, I'll drive to Guanghe Huafu to pick you up at 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. After getting Zhang Fengjai's straightforward agreement, Zhuang Jian was very excited to agree on the time and place of reunion, looked at the watch on her wrist, and then smiled and suggested. Zhang Fengjai, it's almost lunchtime now, how about I treat you to a meal in the restaurant? Although he was reluctant to accompany Zhuang Jian to the college restaurant for dinner, considering that the other party had just answered the question without any concealment, and wanted to learn more about the situation of the Supernatural Research Institute, Zhang Fengjai finally smiled and nodded in agreement. Walking side by side on the blue brick paved path, Zhuang Jian looked at the college students who couldn't wait to rush to the cafeteria after class, and the couples who deliberately fell behind, and exclaimed with envy in her eyes. It's great to be young. Zhuang Jian's inexplicable sigh made Zhang Fengjai not know how to respond, and he could only choose to remain silent. By the way, Zhang Fengjai, how old are you this year? After a heartfelt sigh, Zhuang Jian turned her head to look at Zhang Fengjai's young face and couldn't help asking. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 188. Ningji Normal University. I'm 18 years old. After hearing Zhang Fengjai's answer, Zhuang Jian couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. Although Zhang Fengjai's appearance and temperament gave people a young and immature feeling, Zhuang Jian never really regarded him as a young man. Because the monks in the Taoist sect, while absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to improve their own cultivation and strength, will also slow down the rate of aging. Take her as an example. Regardless of her appearance, skin color, figure, and temperament, she looks like she is just in her early 20s, but she is actually a woman in her 30s. Therefore, in her opinion, Zhang Fengjie, who seemed to be only 17 or 18 years old, was actually at least 26 or 17 years old, and might even be in his third year. After all, Zhang Fengjie has the ability to release his spiritual power. But what she never expected was that he would be so young. After the shock, a look of envy and jealousy immediately flashed in her eyes. Because in the headquarters of the Supernatural Research Institute, only those who fail the assessment will be assigned to various areas to be responsible for monitoring and cleaning up supernatural creatures. He seems to be a high-ranking person with a bright future, but in fact he is a loser who has been completely given up. Those who pass the assessment can not only continue to stay in the headquarters with sufficient spiritual energy, but also get more training resources and the guidance of more powerful people and famous teachers. What seems to be a lack of opportunities for experience is actually a winner with a bright future. The most critical points in the assessment of the Supernatural Research Institute are age and cultivation. The younger you are, the stronger your cultivation is, the higher your assessment score will be, because age represents talent and potential, hope and future, and infinite possibilities. At the age of 18, he has the cultivation level to release his spiritual power. If Zhang Fengjie is a member of the Supernatural Research Institute, he will not only receive the most top-notch respect and training, but he will also definitely become a high-ranking member of the Research Institute in the future and hold the power of life and death for countless people. At this time, she somewhat understood why the omniscient and omniscient upper-level leaders value Zhang Fengjie so much. At this moment, her thoughts of befriending and wooing Zhang Fengjie not only became stronger, but also the idea of taking advantage of the opportunity to fly up a branch and become a phoenix emerged in her mind. Hello, Teacher Zhuang. Just when Zhuang Jian was immersed in her beautiful imagination, and just when Zhang Fengjie was thinking about how to perfectly understand the secrets of the Supernatural Research Institute, Zhou Huiwen, who had a childlike face and giant peaks, suddenly ran over from behind, panting. After casually greeting Zhuang Jian, Tian Huiwen asked happily as she looked at Zhang Fengjie with a look of surprise in her eyes. Zhang Fengjie, why are you here today? Tian Huiwen's sudden appearance surprised Zhang Fengjie, but also made Zhuang Jian wake up from her beautiful imagination. When she saw the other person's childish face but proud breasts, she hurriedly walked to Zhang Fengjie's side and reminded him with a hint of caution. Classmate Yuan, Zhang Fengjie and the teacher are very good friends. He came to visit me specifically today. Tian Huiwen, who ignored Zhuang Jian's cautionary reminder and looked directly at Zhang Fengjie, took out her mobile phone and began to complain. Zhang Fengjie, you are so mean. Last time I helped you so much, you not only didn't say anything, but also left without even leaving your contact information. Could it be that you were afraid that I would ask you to treat me to dinner? Seeing Tian Huiwen complaining like a good friend, Zhang Fengjie had a look of doubt in his eyes. Because when she sneaked into the girls' dormitory some time ago, she had already made it very clear that she was not interested in her at all, and she only offered to help because she wanted to know the real cause of Zhou Jingying's death, and there would not be too much relationship between them in the future. Intersection. Therefore, after successfully killing the heart-killing spider, he turned around and left the normal college. Why are you still dazed? Hurry up and give me your phone number. Seeing Zhang Fengjie in a daze, Tian Huiwen waved her phone in front of his eyes and reminded him. The arm holding the mobile phone shook, causing the two giant peaks to sway back and forth. This made Zhang Fengjie slightly distracted and subconsciously reported his mobile phone number. 1351. After dialing the mobile phone number Zhang Fengjie reported, Tian Huiwen happily saved the phone number when she heard the ringtone in his pocket. Okay. I've already remembered it. At the same time, Zhuang Jian also recited it silently in her heart, and also kept the phone number in her heart. Zhang Fenjai, why did you come to our college today? Just when Tian Huiwen and Zhuang Jian were recording Zhang Fenjai's phone number, Zhou Yaru's voice full of surprise suddenly came from behind. Hello Zhou Yaru. Zhang Fenjai turned around and said hello with an indifferent expression, pointing at Zhuang Jian and explaining. Your teacher Zhuang and I are good friends, and I made a special trip to visit her today. If Tian Huiwen's advantage is that her childlike appearance is also commonly known as Lolita, which has a fatal temptation for some adult men. Then, Zhou Yaru, who has a pure and lovely appearance and a youthful and energetic atmosphere, will be obsessed with seducing some young boys. Therefore, when she saw Zhou Yaru's eyes full of surprise, and Zhuang Jian, whose guarded eyes were instantly replaced by hostility, she immediately nodded in response to Zhang Fenjai's explanation and pointed at the restaurant as a reminder. Zhang Fenjai, the lunch time in the college cafeteria is very short, let's go in and order food as soon as possible. Zhang Fenjai, it's better to treat me to a meal today. Just when Zhang Fenjai wanted to nod and agree, Tian Huiwen immediately hugged his arm and asked. Thinking of the sacrifices made by Tian Huiwen in order to allow him to sneak into the girls' dormitory openly, Zhang Fenjai immediately softened his heart and wanted to nod and agree, but Zhou Yaru walked directly in front of him and said with an apologetic tone. Zhang Fenjai, I was wrong last time. To express my apology, I will treat you to a real meal today. Looking at Zhou Yaru and Zhuang Jiru who took the initiative to treat him to a meal, and then looking at Tian Huiwen who insisted on his treat, Zhang Fenjai suddenly felt a headache and didn't know how to make a choice. It seemed that God felt that he was not in enough trouble now. Just when he didn't know how to agree or refuse the requests of the three women in front of him, a familiar voice came from behind him. Yezi, did you come to see me today? Turning his head to look at Xiao Yuxuan, whose face was slightly blushing and whose eyes were full of apology and tenderness, Zhang Fenjai suddenly had an urge to mobilize the spiritual power in his Danshan and then use the Qingfeng step to escape from the normal college. Glancing at each other, Zhuang Jian, Tian Huiwen, Zhou Yaru and Xiao Yuxuan all showed a hint of wary hostility in their eyes. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yanyun Yuqi. Chapter 189. Ningji Normal University. Just when Zhang Fenjai was considering whether he should immediately use Qingfeng's step to leave the normal college and escape from the difficult-to-choice situation in front of him, the ringtone of his cell phone suddenly rang in his pocket. He quickly took out his mobile phone and took a look, and found that the caller number displayed on the screen was Zhu Zhenjun. He felt a sense of joy in helping Xiao Yuxuan and the other four beauties, and he quickly confessed to Xiao Yuxuan and other four beauties, walked to the flower bed, and then connected Zhu Zhenjun's phone number. Telephone. Brother, where are you? Zhu Zhenjun's laughter immediately came from the phone. In front of the cafeteria of the normal college. Hey! Why did you go to the normal college where there are so many beauties? Zhu Zhenjun's confused voice came from the phone. Brother Zhu, don't ask me why I showed up at the normal college. I'm in trouble now. Ignoring Zhu Zhenjun's doubts, Zhang Fenjai hurriedly informed the other party of the troubles he encountered in detail, hoping that Zhu Zhenjun, who was in love, could give him some advice. Brother, don't hang up the phone. I can get to the normal college in 3 minutes at most. When he heard that Zhang Fenjai had been photographed by 3 beautiful students and a beautiful teacher from the normal college at the same time, he had an urge to watch a show, which made Zhu Zhenjun, who was at least 10 minutes away from the normal college, immediately turn on the accelerator. The one who stepped on the bottom started speeding. Anyway, he didn't know how to deal with the choices made by Xiao Yuxuan and others when he got back. Zhang Fenjai simply put the phone to his ear and stood there waiting. Regardless of whether it was a Bugatti Veyron worth more than 20 million, or an impressive license plate number, facing Zhu Zhenjun who was speeding and running a red light, pedestrians could only curse in a low voice and quickly give way, while the traffic police could only curse in their hearts and choose to turn a blind eye. In the end, the nearly 10-minute journey was shortened to less than 3 minutes by Zhu Zhenjun. When the graceful, ghost-like black Bugatti Veyron parked in front of the college cafeteria, countless men and women immediately stopped and watched. What the boys saw was a sports car, but what the girls saw was Zhu Zhenjun, who was slightly fat but handsome and dressed luxuriously after opening the car door. This also includes Zhou Yaru and Tian Huiwen. After all, Zhang Fenjai's advantage was too illusory, giving people a feeling that it was out of reach, far inferior to the outstanding temperament and high worth of Zhu Zhenjun in front of him. But for Zhuang Jian, who was born in the Supernatural Research Institute, and Xiao Yuxuan, who had an indifferent temperament, the appearance of Zhu Zhenjun and the luxury car only made them look at him indifferently, and continued to turn their attention to Zhang Fenjai who was standing in front of the flower bed. "Brother." After hanging up the Kylin mobile phone in his hand, Zhu Zhenjun greeted Zhang Fenjai Luogui and took a rough look at the four women gathered together. The pure and cute type, the iceberg cold type, the naughty lowly type, and the sexy lady type. When he saw that four different types of women were attracted to Zhang Fenjai, Zhu Zhenjun felt envious and at the same time thought of how to help him out. "Brother Zhu, let me introduce you." Zhang Fenjai, with joy in his eyes, quickly put away his phone and went to greet them, then pointed at Xiao Yuxuan and introduced the four beauties. Zhuang Jian, a teacher in the history department of Normal College. Tian Huiwen, a talented girl majoring in music. Zhou Yaru, a talented woman majoring in psychology. As for Xiao Yuxuan, Zhu Zhenjun knew and was familiar with him, so he didn't introduce him too much. "Teacher Zhuang, Yuan, Zhou Yaru, this handsome guy is named Zhu Zhenjun. He is not only a rich second generation from a truly wealthy family, but also a successful entrepreneur who started his own business." Then, he pointed at Zhu Zhenjun and introduced the three beauties Zhuang Jian. Because of his low-key personality, although Brother Zhu is not on the ranking list, the wealth he has accumulated by starting his own business is no less than that of the top 30 super rich people. He is definitely a diamond bachelor with a lot of money at a young age. If Zhu Zhenjun appeared in a luxury car and handsome at the beginning, it only attracted some attention from Zhou Yaru and Tian Huiwen. Then, Zhang Fenjai's self-employment experience and wealth, as well as his personal situation of being single, completely aroused their strong interest. Chen Xiaofeng, who was also from the second generation of rich people, had pursued her crazily, but Chen Xiaofeng's dandy character and style, and the special gang nature of the Qinglong Chamber of Commerce, made Zhou Yaru very clear that Chen Xiaofeng was not her best choice. Zhu Zhenjun, who comes from a truly wealthy family, and his hard-working character and style are exactly the ideal type she has always longed for. For Tian Huiwen, it was not as complicated as Zhou Yaru thought. She was simply interested in luxury cars and handsome guys. Therefore, they not only reintroduced themselves, but also pushed Zhang Fenjai and Xiao Yuxuan away, seemingly unintentionally, but actually intentionally, and took the initiative to stand next to Zhu Zhenjun. As for Zhuang Jian, she nodded to Zhu Zhenjun with an indifferent expression and took the initiative to walk to Zhang Fenjai's side. Already having a confirmed lover like Sulitzi, although Zhang Fenjai would not cheat on her if she fell in love with someone else, his vanity and self-esteem in his bones still made him care about the beauty's attitude towards him. The trouble with having to make a choice just now was because he didn't want to disappoint any of the beauties present. "I just focused on Zhu Zhenjun's background and advantages, just to test how much they like him." Zhou Yaru and Tian Huiwen's instant love affair directly pierced his vanity and completely hurt his self-esteem, which made him lose interest in going to the cafeteria to eat. Turning to Xiao Yuxuan who had been watching him, Zhang Fenjai persuaded solemnly. "Yuxuan, you'd better think carefully about Yuxi's matter." Then, he turned to Zhuang Jian, who was also watching him, and reminded her with a smile on his face. Teacher Zhuang, I will wait for you at the gate of Guanghe Huafu at 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Then, while walking towards the sports car, he instructed Zhu Zhenjun, who was chatting with Zhou Yaru and Tian Huiwen. Brother Zhu, let's go. Two beauties, call each other. After making a phone call gesture with his right hand, Zhu Zhenjun turned and walked towards the sports car. The smile on his face was instantly replaced by indifference, and a sneer of disdain flashed in his eyes. Short-sighted. Zhuang Jian, who also had a flash of disdain in her eyes, watched Zhou Yaru and Tian Huiwen reluctantly leave the sports car. After leaving a contemptuous comment, she turned around and left, heading straight for the teacher's apartment building. Xiao Yuxuan, on the other hand, looked at Zhou Yaru and Tian Huiwen with disgust without disguising her eyes, then turned around and left, heading straight for the girls' dormitory building. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yanyun Yuqi. Chapter 190. After driving the sports car away from the gate of the normal college, Zhu Zhenjun took advantage of the gap between there not being many cars in front of him to look at Zhang Fengjai and reminded him solemnly. Brother, Zhou Yaru and Tian Huiwen are neither suitable to be your wife, nor are they suitable to be your lover. Otherwise, there will definitely be a prairie above your head in the future. Brother Zhu, I already have a girlfriend, how could I possibly provoke another woman? Zhang Fengjai retorted seriously after adjusting his emotions. Okay, we are all normal men of flesh and blood. Who doesn't know the little juju in the other's heart? If Zhang Fengjai was really a calm and honest man, then when he faced the invitations from the four beauties just now, he would have made his choice without any trouble at all. Therefore, in the face of Zhang Fengjai's pretending to be serious, Zhu Zhenjun retorted with contempt and joked with a smile. Brother, if you want to keep the red flag at home and keep the colorful flags flying outside the home, you need a lot of skills and ethics. If I have time in the future, I will teach you a few tricks, which will definitely benefit you a lot and enjoy the blessings of being together forever. Although he knew that half-heartedness was absolutely wrong, facing Zhu Zhenjun's teasing, Zhang Fengjai found it difficult to refute and refuse righteously. He could only helplessly turn his head and look at the scenery outside the window. However, when he saw that the direction of the sports car was neither to the east of the Guanghe Huafu Villa nor to the north of the Golden Orchid Apartments, he couldn't help but frown slightly and asked. Brother Zhu, where are you going to take me? After quickly turning around and driving out of the city, Zhu Zhenjun increased the speed and explained with a hint of nervousness and expectation in his eyes. Brother, I have a classmate with whom I have a very good relationship. He opened a unique fish restaurant in the commercial street of Huancheng West Road. I will take you to try the whole fish feast now. Since the food in the college cafeteria is not eaten, it would be good to enjoy the special whole fish feast now, so Zhang Fengjai nodded in agreement and continued to turn his head to admire the scenery outside the window. At a speed of over 150 yards per hour, it took them less than half an hour to arrive at the West Ring Road, which was obviously less prosperous and less popular than the east side of the city. Looking at the commercial streets on both sides of the road, not only were there few customers, but more than two-thirds of the shops were either closed or had sublease information posted. Zhang Fengjai vaguely felt that Zhu Zhenjun might not just bring him here to eat specialties. An all-fish feast is so simple. After crossing an artificial arch bridge, Zhu Zhenjun finally parked his sports car in front of a two-story restaurant called Weishan Lake Specialty Fish. Brother, the owner of this restaurant is named He Tong Tong. He is the only good friend who has never disliked my obesity in the 4 years of college and has always taken care of me. Zhang Fengjai's eyes shifted from the window on the second floor of the hotel to Zhu Zhenjun, and he joked with a smile. Whether it's Tong Tong next to a single person or Dong Dong, which represents the direction, they all sound like girls' names. In that case, your classmate and friend who has a good relationship with you is not only a girl, but also a beautiful woman who has never married, right? That's right, Zhu Zhenjun, whose face instantly turned red with embarrassment, quickly lowered his head and admitted in a low voice. Brother Zhu, let's go. Let me see how outstanding the beautiful classmate you can never forget is. Seeing the short-haired beauty appearing in the lobby on the first floor, Zhang Fenjai opened the car door and continued to tease. Call. Taking a deep breath, and after his blushing face returned to normal, Zhu Zhenjun used the rearview mirror to straighten his clothes, then opened the car door and walked out. The luxurious Bugatti Veyron sports car parked in front of her hotel, which had long attracted the attention of the hotel owner He Tong Tong, which is why she hurriedly came down from the second floor. When she saw the thin young man getting off the passenger seat and looking at her with a simple smile on his face, He Tong Tong couldn't help but frown, because she didn't know him at all. However, when she saw the fat young man stepping out of the driver's seat, especially the vaguely familiar facial contours, her eyes immediately showed an unbelievable look. Are you Zhu Zhenjun, the little pig? He Tong Tong quickly ran to the door of the hotel and asked with a somewhat uncertain tone. Tong Tong, I'm Zia Zhu. Zhu Zhenjun opened his arms and greeted emotionally. It's really you. The moment he received Zhu Zhenjun's confirmation, He Tong Tong showed a happy smile on his face and immediately gave him a hug of classmate friendship. In this regard, Zhang Fenjai took a dozen steps back without interrupting their reminiscence, and then carefully looked at the feng shui layout of the entire commercial street. Although the development focus of the Ningji municipal government in the past 10 years has been towards the east and north of the city, it also has certain supportive policies for the west of the city, which has a large amount of coal and land resources. For example, the Tangkao coal mine, which is only 3 miles away from this commercial street, and several large auto repair shops around it, are enough to ensure a sufficient number of customers. But why is the business in a commercial street with excellent conditions in all aspects such a slump? After retreating to the arch bridge and standing on a pier, Zhang Fenjai put his right hand on his eye socket and glanced in the 4 directions, southeast, northwest, with a look of confusion in his eyes. To the north of the commercial street is the largest Tangkao coal mine in Ningji city, which occupies the fire element among the 5 elements. To the east of the commercial street is the famous Qinghe River in Ningji city, which occupies the water among the 5 elements. To the west of the commercial street are thousands of acres of fertile fields planted with corn, occupying the 5 elements of wood. To the south of the commercial street is the newly built high-speed rail line, which can be regarded as the gold in the 5 elements. The commercial streets on both sides of the street are slightly higher by several meters, occupying the earth in the 5 elements. Although it is not known whether the commercial layout is intentional or accidental, the 5-element feng shui layout with complete gold, wood, water, fire, and earth is definitely the most suitable feng shui treasure land for living and business, and is not inferior to Xintang Daxia where Yongsheng Group is located. Since it has the top feng shui treasures with complete 5 elements and is not lacking in sufficient customer sources, the business of the commercial street should not be so deserted. Brother, come here. After a brief reminiscence, Zhu Zhenjun waved to Zhang Fenjai and greeted him. Temporarily suppressing the doubts in his heart, Zhang Fenjai jumped off the bridge pier and walked quickly to He Tong Tong. Tong Tong, this is my only brother Zhang Fenjai, you can call him Yezi. Pointing at Zhang Fenjai, Zhu Zhenjun introduced solemnly. The only brother. After 4 years of college life, He Tong Tong was very clear about the purpose of Zhu Zhenjun's introduction, so she stretched out her rough and slender hand and greeted with a smile. Sister Tong Tong, hello. Originally, she wanted to respond with Taoist etiquette, but under Zhu Zhenjun's pleading eyes, Zhang Fenjai still politely stretched out his right hand to return the greeting.